Hello, this is Demerson35, and this is the video where I will show you the whole truth and nothing but the truth about YouTuber The Brett Burns and who he really is, a liar, a cheater, and a master manipulator. Here I will show you my carefully documented imperative evidence which will expose this shady commentator for who he really is. For those that are watching, before you leave a comment expressing your thoughts, please refrain until you watch the video in its entirety. So a little background information. I met Brett Burns a few months ago on YouTube. At the time, I had about 500 more subs than him. Currently, he has 3,000 more subs than me. This month on Social Blade, he averages about 50 subs a day and 5,000 views a day. We were cool for a while, we would play a lot on Xbox together, and then I started to find out some things about him. First, he comments on other people's channels, such as FaZe Clan, this is a fact. He also admitted on my podcast on Saturday. Here's a clip.
Oh,
Do you comment on people's channels?
I've been doing since like fucking
fucker.
last year.
Fuck. Dude, that's disrespectful to other people's channels, dude.
It's not really, it's just a comment.
I've also noticed his abnormal view count. Most of his videos eventually hit around 300 to 800 views a video. But here, a video titled A Tribute to Demerson35, a video made by Shawty Boss, only generated 150 views. This is a clear but small anomaly. If he really was consistent with views, wouldn't it have reached 300 views like the rest of his videos? That's a little sketchy, but there's more. A video Brett uploaded called M27 Part 1, Race for a Diamond Camo Assault Rifle, only reached a measly 40 views in 7 hours. Look at the time at the bottom right. It's 12:30 a.m. You would think that with a channel with 6,000 subs, his video would get more than 41 views in a 7-hour time frame. And just 3 hours later, his views doubled. Doesn't stop there, just 7 hours more and it doubles again. So how does he do it? I'll explain. His views doesn't start to climb until after the podcast. Here's a picture of him ranting on Twitter at about 3 a.m. This means he's up, and at the same time his views start to climb. He must have applied the view bot. I hypothesize if the Brett Burns uploaded a video and was locked in a box for 24 hours with no technology, that video he uploaded would generate no more than 200 views, guaranteed. His subs don't give him views, his viewbot does. So we have a video that hits 41 views in 7 hours, and miraculously overnight it quadruples in views. And it's not even a feature video. But what about his subs? How does he gain so many subs? Well, the Brett Burns also subbots. Here's convincing evidence. If we take a look at his Social Blade account, look at the amount of subs he's gained over the months. You'll see a spike. His sub count at the time was 138 on October 4th of 2012. On October 5th, 2012, the very next day, he jumped to 500 subs. How is it possible to gain 362 subs in one day with only 399 daily views on the same day? It's not, unless you have a sub bot. The Brett Burns claims that his subs are consistent. On Twitter, he uploaded a picture of his daily subs from his Social Blade. Do you see something missing? What you see is that the Brett Burns intentionally leaves out the spike in subs from October of 2012. Why does he not show it? Because he knows that it would have been suspicious. Another piece of evidence that shows the Brett Burns has a sub bot is GDG Entertainment. The Brett Burns was a former CEO of the gaming community channel GDG Entertainment. GDG stands for Goddamn Gaming. It was created by myself, the Brett Burns, Overshot Tay 13, and Shawty Boss. The Brett Burns does shoutouts every time he gets 1,000 subs, which is often. One of the channels was GDG. GDG's sub count before Brett's shoutout video was 17 subs. After the video, which currently has 600 views, GDG received 5 subs. You would think getting a shout out from a channel with 6,000 subs, you would receive more than 5 subs. I have a series I'm going to start it up again called Subscriber Sunday. It averages around 200 views, and people that upload to my channel gets an average of 10 to 30 subs a submission. So why does GDG only receive 5 subs? Was it because the video was shared with 2 other commentators who were also giving shoutouts, directing attention away from GDG, or was it because the 600 people that viewed his video were not in fact his subs? I think it's the latter. So I've managed to find evidence on his usage of viewbots and subbots. Now let's dig deeper. Who is the Brett Burns really? Keep watching to find out. A little over a week ago, we planned to have Modern Word Negro on the podcast that I have every Saturday. This is a big deal and an honor to have such a prestigious YouTuber to be a guest on the podcast, but the Brett Burns didn't see it that way. In our very short Skype conversation, he asked if it can be hosted on Modern Word Negro's YouTube channel. I asked, why should it matter? He replied saying, we will get so many subs from it. I said, and I quote, fuck subs dude, him being on the podcast is enough. He replied saying, this is our biggest chance, we don't have many opportunities to get help from bigger YouTubers. I didn't reply and he ended up being on the podcast. By the way, that was just a paraphrase, not the actual conversation. The reason that I don't have the actual conversation is because most likely I blocked the Brett Burns and removed him from my contacts list on Skype. So I didn't reply to him and he ended up not being on the podcast. The reason was because I didn't agree with his wicked ways of trying to take advantage of people for exposure. That would have been low. Unfortunately, I don't have the Skype conversation as I said, but luckily he admitted to it live on my latest podcast saying,
Pick up, please. Try to use him, try to get subscribers, Brett.
Hey, gotta take advantage of those shit.
So you can see his mindset on YouTube is wayward. But let's back up to the podcast where he wasn't invited to. My podcasts are live on Twitch and then uploaded on YouTube. As you can see, my 25th podcast video now has 11 dislikes. None of my podcasts have more than 3 dislikes, including my latest podcast. In my own opinion, I believe that this 57-minute podcast was one of the best that we've ever had, featuring gameplay and a peak audience of 17 viewers. The only person who could hold a grudge against me that night was the Brett Burns, so I believe that he disliked my video with multiple accounts. This isn't a fact, just inductive reasoning. What further strengthened the belief that the Brett Burns held a grudge against me not letting him on the podcast was a comment from a mysterious viewer. He commented asking, will the Brett Burns be on the podcast? I replied, no. He then said, that's too bad, he was really funny. I thought to myself, this is very strange for someone to say something like this because the Brett Burns is the most quiet in podcasts, so how can he be funny? I took a look at his channel and what I saw was shocking. In his activity it shows that he likes all of Brett Burns' videos. Not only that, he also comments on other people's videos telling them to check out the Brett Burns in spam fashion. I then deduced the Snipebog 1 was not a random person, but was in fact the Brett Burns himself. I then replied saying, nice try Brett, you're not very funny at all, or very smart. He then says the last comment saying, this is when I told my colleagues, Shoddy Boss, Overshot Tay 13, and S&D Astro what had happened. We then decided that we were going to expose the Brett Burns for what he really is, live on the podcast. But I had to convince him to come back on. I then messaged him saying I was sorry and that I wanted you on the podcast. He asked me what had happened. Did you lose views? I thought it was a little suspicious to ask, did I lose views? But I ignored it and said, nothing dude, some fanboy commented on my channel and I thought it was you. I did leave the comments, no biggie. That was paraphrased by the way. He then says, but I needed more evidence before we can go through with our plan, more proof. And that's when Overshot Tay 13 and I investigated more about this Snipebog 1 character. His comments are either spam on other people's videos or replies to other people's comments on his own channel. I believe he does this to deter attention from his own main channel while still defending his channel from hate, playing the role of the classic obsessive fanboy. If he had subs, he wouldn't have to do this. He also negatively comments on small channels such as this. Why would you support a YouTuber that talks down about a person's video that only has 17 views instead of telling him how he can improve? What sealed the deal was his subscription box. In it was the Brett Burns channel and also a YouTuber named Push to Insanity. Who is Push to Insanity, you might ask? Turns out he's a Brett Burns intro maker. Why would a fan not only have only one YouTuber in the subscription box, but also his intro maker? Because Snipebog1 and the Brett Burns are the same person. So it is confirmed that Codbog1 has had contact with the Brett Burns intro maker Push to Insanity, markets for the Brett Burns on larger people's YouTube videos, defends himself from hate on his own videos, likes his own videos, and also posts negative comments on people with only 5 subs. But if you still don't believe that Snipebog1 and the Brett Burns are one of the same, I will show you the undeniable proof that will change your mind otherwise. Snipebog1's activity shows that he likes videos from 4 people's channels: his own, the Brett Burns, GDG Entertainment, my own, Demerson35, and Yankee Fan 1. Who is Yankee Fan 1? Turns out this is Brett Burns' original YouTube channel, created November 6, 2007. Nobody who was subscribed to the Brett Burns for less than 4 months would know about his original account. In fact, nobody could know about his original account because the only possible way to know is the channel name or through Snipebog1. In the sub box is the Brett Burns channel and the title is Second Channel. His videos include a clip of MLB 2K7. Does this look familiar? Also, the Brett Burns admitted saying that's the only thing he watches.
Baseball's alright.
One thing I watch.
Also a clip of him bowling. You can clearly see that is the Brett Burns from 4 years ago. Just look, he used to be a bowling champion.
No one in this whole call can beat me in fucking bowling.
Really? Really?
Best.
Can you see that?
What is that?
300 bowling rank?
Also, looking at his activity, he likes and favorites the Brett Burns videos. I can conclude with absolute 100% certainty that the Snipebog1 is the Brett Burns alternate account and Yankee Fan 1 is the Brett Burns original account. After the podcast, the Brett Burns made some noticeable changes to his Snipebog1 channel. At first, he deleted his channel, but a minute later decides to undo the change. He also changes his likes to private. He most likely did this to sever the only connection to his original YouTube, since after the podcast was uploaded, he would have gotten a lot more activity than usual, exposing him. He also deleted the comment he made on my channel from earlier that day. Lastly, he changed his subscriptions to private. This is the Brett Burns. On Twitter he mentioned that I had schizophrenia. When people are scared, paranoid, insecure, or ashamed, they tend to project their own faults onto other people. He subconsciously admits that he has some form of schizophrenia. Not a fact, just an intellectual opinion. If you want to see the podcast where the Brett Burns breaks down in fear, the link will be in the description below. It starts heating up about 27 minutes. Thank you guys for watching. This is the official exposing video of the Brett Burns, a liar, cheater, and master manipulator. Whether you sub to him or not, decide for yourself if you want to keep supporting this guy and if he really is worth your time.
Why you do YouTube, Brad?
I do YouTube. Remember, I'm sure you hate Call of Duty, but you know like the file shares in theater mode. You can like all remember about your memories. like put your high scoring gameplay, stuff like that, your funny stuff. I did YouTube because you can like retrack and memorize all your memories of like all the funny shit, all the high scoring gameplays, all the shit that happens.
Don't forget to drop a like. This is Demerson35, and as Overshot Tape 13 mentioned in the podcast, the truth will set you free.